So I just made an entire 10-minute video about a sum that I thought was entirely useless. Um, but I made a video because I thought it looked cool and I liked the way I thought about it. And then I realised that it actually does have an application, which has probably been used elsewhere, and I'm definitely not the first one to have thought of this. And again, it probably doesn't have much of an application, but to just set the ground, because I deleted that video because it was useless after I found this out, I created this sum up here today that all it did was combine the Moivre's theorem and binomial expansion. So you would have it was function sigma of n. Um, so you would have a number maybe 5, for example, and um, you would put the 5 as the top bound for the sum. And if you took the real part of that sum, you would get cosine of 5x. If you took the imaginary part, you would get sine of 5x. It was a way of doing de Moivre's theorem without doing de Moivre's theorem, expanding it for you. But again, it was useless because you could just open a calculator and take the real part of cosine x plus I sine x to the power of 5, and it would give you what you wanted, right? So I'd written it all out, and then I'd written down all the terms and simplified to prove that it worked. But then I realized there was another function that came out of that I don't know if you could. Oh shit. I don't know if you can see properly because there's glare on the screen. Let me see if I can fix the glare. Okay, the glare seems gone. Okay, these two, right? They seem like they actually have some kind of purpose. This was delta r of n, which was the real part of this, but condensed, right? I got rid of the I completely so it would be able to be used on actual calculators because a lot of cheaper calculators can't use I. It was a sum from r equals 0 to your number of choosing n, of n choose 2r minus 1 to the r times cosine n minus 2r x times sine 2r of x, which looks quite complicated. But all it did is I looked for the pattern in these terms here that produced the real part, which was, I noticed every odd, every like, how to describe, um, every odd term, right? 5, 3, and 1 was real, and every even sine term was sine of 0, 2, uh, um, yeah, 2 and 4, right? Um, so I just formulated that, right? And looked for the pattern, like I just said. So you have n choose 2r minus 1r, which simulates the complex number because you don't use it, right? So minus 1 to the 0 would be 1, which is I to the 0. Minus 1 to the 1 would be minus 1, which is I squared, and so on. And then the cosine n minus 2r, well, n minus 0 is 5, so you keep that. Then n minus 2 times 1 is 3. So then you have the 3 term, and then you keep going, and you keep going down the terms to keep the real part, and the sine is exactly the same, and the cosine is just that but flipped, right, to the odd part. So you have n choose 2r plus 1 minus 1 to the r stays the same because you're not using the complex number really, you're just simulating it. And then you have cosine n minus 2r plus 1 times sine 2n plus, or that should be 2r plus 1, or should it, yeah, 2r plus 1, I don't know why I wrote 2n plus 1. And these two will give you the expansion for cosine nx and sine nx without having to do the real and the imaginary parts. You can just use it with purely real numbers, which I don't know if this has an application or anything. I'm sure there's easier ways to do it. I mean, taking the real and imaginary is easy enough for anyone with an understanding of complex numbers. And I imagine this would be anyone that can understand this could understand complex numbers. So really, it probably doesn't have much of an application. But I was really like happy when I found this out because it took a complex topic and made it into a real one, which is something, if you watched any of my videos, you know I like doing, making complex things real. Complex numbers have a broad application to real life in many topics. But this, I think, is cool. And I will write a latex out for this in the description. So if I do have anything wrong here, please correct me because I am often hard at spotting my own mistakes. So please correct me if I'm wrong. And I'll write a latex. I wrote a latex for this already. I'll write a latex for this now after I've recorded this. And yeah, I think this is really cool. Yeah, I feel quite happy.